She's 38, and I am 43. I used to be a Marine officer, and now I work as a full-time engineer and part-time adjunct professor. My wife and I have been married for 8 years, and in that time, we've been blessed with 5 wonderful children. Our journey took an unexpected turn when my wife began experiencing severe postpartum depression after the birth of our second child. The struggle intensified over the years, even with the help of medication. It reached a point where, when she stopped taking her meds, things took a drastic turn for the worse. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, we made the tough decision for her to become a stay-at-home mom. It was a choice we believed would provide her with the necessary support and stability. However, despite our efforts, her condition continued to deteriorate, leading to a critical moment when she contemplated thoughts of self-deletion. The turning point came when she was admitted to a mental institution. It was a difficult period for our family, and I found myself juggling the responsibilities of my demanding job, raising 5 children, and supporting my wife through her challenging journey. To ease the load, we enlisted the help of a full-time babysitter, creating a support system that allowed me to fulfill my commitments while ensuring the well-being of our children and the recovery of my wife. When she returned from the mental institution, there was a noticeable improvement in my wife's condition, but she believed that having a babysitter, despite the cost, would further help alleviate her stress and depression. I supported her decision wholeheartedly. Initially, the babysitter came once or twice a week, but soon, her presence became almost daily. I understood the importance of my wife's well-being, so I didn't object. I spoke with my wife to understand her schedule, and she explained that the extra days were occupied with errands, doctor visits, and self-help group meetings. Although it incurred additional costs and presented a logistical challenge, her health was my priority, and I was willing to do whatever it took for her full recovery. One evening after work, I came home and noticed my wife wasn't back yet. Concerned, I called her, and she assured me she was meeting with her support group. However, the background noise suggested a different scene, music that seemed more fitting for a pub than a support group meeting. The situation raised a few questions, but my primary focus remained on her well-being and recovery. When she returned, something felt off. I could smell alcohol on her, and my worry deepened when she came home and passed out. As I checked her phone, a text message flashed on the screen saying, "Good night, babe." I was puzzled and concerned, wondering who would be sending such an affectionate message to my wife. Driven by serious concerns, I used her facial recognition while she slept to unlock her iPhone. What I discovered shook me to the core. The messages and pictures dated back to her time post-mental institution. It appeared she had met someone there, a 25-year-old man with no job, no car, and no real ambition in life. They attended support group meetings together. To my shock, she had been using my hard-earned money to rent cheap motels where she was intimately involved with him. The realization was repulsive, and the weight of betrayal settled heavily on my shoulders. I had been diligently paying for the babysitter to care for our kids while she was out with him. The car I bought her, the gas I provided, and even the drinks she enjoyed, all funded by my efforts and earnings. The sense of betrayal cut deep, and the complexity of emotions surged within me. As I grappled with the revelations, the challenge of addressing this situation loomed ahead, threatening to unravel the life we had built together. To add to the turmoil, I learned that she and her lover were planning to get married, intending to use the money they had obtained from me to start their new life. The shock of discovering this left me utterly devastated. Throughout their communication, not once did she consider the well-being of our 5 children, which added another layer of heartbreak. Drawing upon my background as a former Marine officer, I summoned my self-discipline to confront the situation calmly. I woke her up and informed her that I knew everything about her affair. She began making excuses, citing unhappiness as her rationale. I couldn't fathom how cheating on me and planning a divorce was a reasonable response to her dissatisfaction. Seeking clarity, I asked when she planned to file for divorce, and her response indicated she was still contemplating it. The weight of betrayal and the impending dissolution of our marriage hung heavily in the air. In the face of this painful revelation, I grappled with the emotional turmoil while also considering the impact on our children. Given the stained and seemingly irreparable state of our marriage, I offered to assist in filing for divorce. Despite my love for her, I conveyed that the trust had been shattered, and even if she chose to stay, things would never be the same. I emphasized that I wouldn't linger in limbo, waiting for her to decide my fate, considering the sacrifices I had made for her. Deciding not to delay, I initiated the divorce process that week. What ensued was a contentious legal battle. She demanded more than half of my assets, insisting on the house and full custody of our children. Her argument centered on being a full-time stay-at-home mom. In response, I secured the services of a skilled lawyer. We strategically presented her medical history, highlighting the severe postpartum depression, the attempt at self-deletion, and her admission to the hospital. This medical evidence played a crucial role in the proceedings, shedding light on the challenges she faced and the impact on her ability to provide stable care for our children. To further bolster my case, the babysitter, who had been witness to the complex dynamics in our household, testified against her. While there was a concern that the babysitter might have gone to extremes to portray my wife negatively, the testimony ultimately worked to my benefit. The legal proceedings delved into the intricate details of our family life, providing a comprehensive picture of the challenges we faced and the impact on the well-being of our children. As the courtroom drama unfolded, it became apparent that the road ahead would be arduous, but the evidence presented stood as a testament to the complexities of our situation. In the courtroom, the judge made a crucial decision regarding alimony. Despite the contentious nature of the divorce, it was ruled that I wouldn't be obligated to pay her alimony. However, there was another significant verdict that impacted my financial landscape. I was compelled to sell the house. The judge considered the assets involved, including my 401k that had been diligently built over years of hard work and constant investment. The 401k amounted to $750,000, a testament to the dedication and effort I had put into it. The process of accumulating such a substantial amount had required numerous sacrifices and a consistent commitment to financial planning. Facing the prospect of selling the house and dividing the 401k, negotiations took place. We settled on her receiving 50% of my 401k in exchange for her not making a claim on the house. This agreement was driven by my desire to maintain stability for my children, keeping them in their familiar home and minimizing the disruption caused by the divorce. Throughout the proceedings, it became evident that her actions were motivated solely by self-interest and her affair partner's desires, with little consideration for me or our children. Despite her being granted shared custody, her decisions seemed to prioritize her personal life over the well-being of our family. To complicate matters further, during the divorce proceedings, she continued to live at a cheap motel with her affair partner, who lacked a permanent residence. Their living situation remained uncertain, and it seemed they were waiting for the financial outcome of the divorce to bring stability to their lives. As the court proceedings continued, she took the unconventional step of bringing her affair partner to some of the court sessions. After 8 months of legal back and forth, their living situation had deteriorated to the point where they were residing in her car. During this challenging period, she began to express regret for her decisions, acknowledging the consequences of her infidelity. She made overtures to cancel the divorce, and as much as I might have desired reconciliation, I recognized the necessity of cutting my losses. The toll of the divorce extended beyond the loss of my wife. It also meant diminished time with my children, who were undoubtedly experiencing their own share of trauma through the process. The constant fighting and arguments, coupled with the struggle to control my emotions in the face of her affair partner, took a significant toll on my mental and emotional well-being. While I was aware of his dubious character, I knew that resorting to violence was not a solution, and I had to navigate the situation with restraint. The concern for my children's well-being intensified as the possibility of them staying with her and her affair partner loomed. It weighed heavily on my mind as I grappled with the unsettling thought of their living situation and the potential impact on their stability and happiness. The divorce journey had become a draining and emotionally fraught experience, marked by regrets, sacrifices, and the painful realization that the path forward required accepting losses for the sake of personal growth and the well-being of those I cared about most, my children. Concerned about the well-being of my children, I suspected her new partner had a substance abuse problem that could negatively impact my kids if they were exposed to such an environment. The fear of their safety weighed heavily on my mind. After the divorce was finalized, she received a significant portion of my 401k, using it to purchase a house for herself and her boyfriend. Additionally, she bought him a car. It didn't take long for my kids to start sharing troubling details about their relationship, filled with abuse, cursing, and physical violence on both ends. Knowing her well, I sensed she recognized the enormity of her mistake but was too prideful to admit it. Like the prodigal son, I anticipated she might eventually realize the error and come running back, but I had resolved not to be there to welcome her. Understanding the gravity of the situation, I took a proactive step to protect my children. I provided my oldest son with a cell phone to discreetly record their arguments and instances of violence. My intention was to gather evidence that could be used in court to support my case for gaining full custody. It was a challenging decision, but the well-being of my children remained my top priority, and I sought to create a safer and more stable environment for them. As tensions escalated between my ex-wife and me, especially upon learning that I was dating someone new, her behavior took a negative turn. She engaged in actions aimed at frustrating me, like deliberately dropping off the kids late or allowing her boyfriend to handle their transportation, fully aware that I disliked him. Her untidy and disorganized approach was another tactic to add to the frustration. In addition to these actions, she took to telling our kids stories about how terrible I was and how I had destroyed the family. It seemed she failed to grasp that the children were well aware of her living situation with another man and that her infidelity was a key factor in our breakup. Her attempts to manipulate their perception only created confusion and further strain. The mounting pressure from the divorce proceedings and the ongoing domestic abuse situation took a toll on her mental health, leading to a breakdown. She found herself back in the mental hospital. Armed with all the evidence of her unfit behavior and the unsafe environment, I returned to the judge and was granted full custody. After her admission, she began texting me, begging for reconciliation and promising to end her relationship with her boyfriend. Despite her pleas, I stood firm in my decision to move forward without her. I even informed her that I was already dating someone new, emphasizing that even if I were to consider taking her back, the mere thought of it made me physically ill, causing me to vomit several times a day. The emotional toll of the situation lingered, but the resolve to protect my family and move forward prevailed. Even if I would be crazy enough to take her back, the thoughts of her being with the other guy creep into my mind, making me feel sick. The connection I once had with my ex-wife has changed. She used to be my angel, seemingly incapable of doing any wrong. She was the most beautiful and sweet woman I had ever known, the love of my life and the woman of my dreams. I had done and would have continued to do anything for her without a complaint, and she destroyed all that. After her release from the mental institution, her parents had to bring her home since her boyfriend had already left her, taking with him the car she had bought for him. She began dating another man, who might also be struggling with substance abuse issues. She repeatedly petitioned the court for shared custody of our kids, but I consistently fought against it. I couldn't bear the thought of my children being exposed to her destructive lifestyle. Despite the evident challenges in her life, I found myself at a point where I no longer cared. My focus shifted entirely to my work and my kids. The divorce process had taken an immense toll on me, physically, mentally, and emotionally. I felt as though I had aged significantly over the past few years of dealing with her. However, I am slowly recovering. While I recognize that her life may be hanging by a thread or may have already fallen apart, at this point, I am determined to move forward and build a stable life for myself and my children. I have accepted that her journey is heading in a direction I no longer want to be a part of, and my priority is ensuring the well-being and happiness